Imagine crossing the threshold of a humble brick house on a quiet London street in the autumn of 1977. The sky hangs leaden with clouds, and every footstep on the pavement seems swallowed by the hush of early evening. You pause under the flickering porch light, its glow wavering as though uncertain whether to reveal what lurks within or hide it forever. Inside, the walls are papered with faded florals, and the air carries the faint, comforting smell of Marmite on toast. Yet every creak of floorboard, every distant sigh, feels pregnant with meaning, an unspoken promise that the ordinary can turn to terror in the blink of an eye. Welcome to 284 Green Street, Enfield. This is where the Brett, or rather the Hodgson family, first found themselves at the center of one of the most controversial hauntings ever recorded, the Enfield Poltergeist. It was a gray afternoon in August when the phenomenon erupted. Peggy Hodgson, a mother of 4, weary from constant worry over rent and the welfare of her children, paused at the top of the stairs when 13-year-old Janet's voice echoed up to her. "Mom, there's something under my bed." What began as a child's frightened imagination quickly spiraled into a maelstrom of inexplicable activity. Chairs skittered across the carpet with no one touching them. A heavy sofa lurched halfway across the living room. Books flew off shelves, pages fluttering like wounded birds. Doors slammed so hard they rattled the window panes, and walls reverberated with disembodied laughter. Peggy roused neighbors to witness the chaos. In one memorable evening, Mrs. Wheeler from next door watched open-mouthed as Janet's bed covers peeled themselves back, and the child's shivering frame floated above the mattress. Her limbs unnaturally stiff, her eyes wide with both terror and amazement. Then came the scratches, faint at first like cat's claws on wallpaper, but then deep, angry welts on Janet's arms, each one appearing without contact, bleeding anew each dawn. As the nights passed, local newspapers swarmed. Photographers snapped grainy black and white images of Janet clutching her arms, tears streaking her face, while shadows danced behind her. Reporters captured Janet's hair being yanked by unseen fingers, and they described a chilling sense of being watched, a presence at the window, or a shape flickering just beyond the camera's frame. Among those drawn to Green Street were neighbors, police officers, and clergymen. One evening, Councillor Campbell arrived with several constables. He stood in the darkened hallway as a lamp hurled itself across the landing, smashing against the opposite wall with a thunderous crack. He later described feeling a presence, cold and insistent, like ice crawling up my spine. Mr. Oldfield, a retired banker living 2 doors down, swore he saw a heavy armchair slide across the living room floor during daylight hours, when Janet's siblings were at school and the front door latched from the outside. It was the audio recordings that gave the haunting its most tangible form. Maurice Gross and Guy Leon Playfair, investigators from the Society for Psychical Research, installed tape recorders in the children's bedroom. They captured Janet's voice, shifting mid-conversation from a frightened teenager to a gravely baritone, proclaiming, "I am Bill. I have been dead for 60 years. Listen closely, and you'll hear the spirit's voice mocking the investigators. Get out! All of you, get out!" It echoes with a hollow resonance, as though it originates not in human vocal cords but from somewhere deep beneath the floorboards, or perhaps beyond our world entirely. Then comes the pregnant pause, followed by a rap that shakes the recorder on its shelf, punctuated by a sudden, furious gust of air that rattles closet doors and extinguishes candles. In that breathless moment, you sense the line between the living room and the other world has frayed beyond repair. When Maurice Gross and Guy Leon Playfair arrived, they brought with them EMF meters, photography equipment, and an unwavering determination. Over more than a year of investigations, they documented well over 1,000 separate incidents. They reported spontaneous indentations in the carpet, boot prints that matched no one in the house. They witnessed a set of drawers sliding across the room and opening on their own accord. On 2 occasions, they filmed Janet levitating by several inches, her body rigid as though held by invisible wires. Gross wrote of a moment in the freezing cold hallway when the meter's needles swung violently, as though something alive and charged with energy paced just beyond the lamplight. Playfair described discovering muddy footprints on freshly hoovered carpets, prints that began at the front door and vanished in mid-hall. One of their most chilling experiments involved asking the poltergeist to tap out letters and words for answers. Janet sat on a stool, fear etched on her face, while unseen forces answered each question with crisp knocks. When she asked, "Is your name George?" 2 knocks fell like gavel strikes, yet no provision existed for that answer in the agreed code. Behind the scenes, Gross's health deteriorated. He developed ear infections and tremors he attributed to prolonged exposure to the poltergeist's energy. He later speculated that certain paranormal phenomena might carry psychic radiation, potent enough to affect the human nervous system. From day one, skeptics pounced on inconsistencies. They pointed to moments in photographs where Janet glances toward hidden cameras, an opportunity, they claimed, for sleight of hand. They noted that activity peaked when journalists were present, dipping when the household fell silent. Maurice Johnson, a prominent skeptic, declared the haunting a charade orchestrated by a talented adolescent and her friends. Citing Janet's flair for dramatics and the family's dire financial situation as motive for publicity. Yet the skeptic's narrative struggles against harder-to-explain details. Neighbors unconnected to the family reported poltergeist knockings in their own homes after witnessing events at Green Street. Scrapings on the house's skirting boards appeared in rooms the children never entered. And audio experts who analyzed the bill recordings concluded that the vocal shifts exhibited resonance patterns beyond the range of human pitch modulation. Then there are the stories of mysterious strangers, well-dressed men in dark suits, who arrived unannounced, questioned the family, and slipped away as quietly as they came. Some witnesses believe these were Secret Service agents, sent to determine whether the phenomenon posed a national security threat, or perhaps to conceal evidence of something too unsettling for public consumption. Paranormal psychologists propose a middle ground, that intense emotional stress can unleash psychokinetic energy, an unconscious force generated by the mind. They suggest that amidst marital strife, economic hardship, and Janet's own adolescent anxieties, the family home became a crucible for phenomena that even rational minds struggle to comprehend. As you step away from 284 Green Street, the lamplight shrinking behind you, the air feels just a touch colder, as though the house has exhaled a final, lingering breath of its hidden history. You carry with you more questions than answers, threaded through your mind like the persistent echo of distant knocks. Was the Enfield Poltergeist a masterpiece of youthful deception, executed with remarkable flair? Or was it an encounter with a restless spirit, an energy older than the London streets, desperate to speak through a child's voice? Perhaps the truth lies in the gray expanse between explanation and wonder, where science and the supernatural entwine in an uneasy dance. Because even as evidence mounts on both sides, no single theory can encapsulate the trembling fear of that dimly lit hallway, the thrill of those midnight recordings, or the sight of a young girl lifted gently from her bed by invisible hands. In the end, the haunting persists, not in the creaking floorboards or the static on old tape recordings, but in our own restless need to know what lies beyond the veil. So the next time you hear a single knock on an empty wall, or feel a whisper of cold breath at the back of your neck, remember Janet's voice, soft, trembling, then transformed into something else. Get out. All of you, get out.